I was for a while talking to this French girl that I matched on some dating app after my breakup. We were texting for a while, then started calling and FaceTiming each other almost every night. We connected really well, but she came from a strict family who she still lived with. So when the idea of me visiting her came up, she made it clear she wouldn't be able to host me, and when I asked if she'd want to share a hotel room together, she said not the first couple nights after we met just because her parents would have a freak out. So since I was only 23 and my pockets weren't stuffed, I booked a stay at a hostel not far from her in Paris. I downloaded a couple movies to watch on the 7-hour flight since I already knew I wouldn't be able to sleep. I never can on flights. And I was right. I tried sleeping but didn't even get close. So by the time I landed and then Ubered to the hostel, I was running on 0 hours of sleep within the past 24 hours. I was exhausted. Due to the 6-hour time difference, it was also like 3 in the morning, so at least that meant I could just go crash in the bed in the hostel and I wouldn't be jet lagged the next day. I arrived to the hostel, which admittedly wasn't the nicest place ever. It was small. There was a certain odor to the lobby, and the front desk worker wasn't too enthusiastic about his job. But it was 3 a.m. after all, so I had to cut him some slack. I walked to the room I'd be staying in, and there were 6 beds, 5 of them empty, but one had a guy sitting on it. He was on his laptop, typing away at something. He looked up at me, then back down at his laptop. I said hey, but he didn't respond back. He seemed invested in what he was doing, so I just laid down in one of the empty beds. But the light to the room was still on. I asked him if it was okay that I shut off the light. Then he looked at me with a blank expression but didn't say anything. I repeated what I said, assuming he didn't hear me, and he nodded his head with this weird smile. So I got up and turned off the lights to the room. I passed out pretty quickly due to my lack of sleep, but surprisingly, I woke up a couple hours later. The room was still dark, but I didn't know for sure what woke me up. I rolled over to my side and looked around the room. It was almost pitch black, but I could see that all the beds were empty. All of them. Where was the other guy that was there earlier? The 2 bunk beds next to me were empty, top and bottom, but I knew something had to have woken me up. I looked on my phone and it was 5 in the morning. I needed sleep, so I said screw it. He probably left and maybe a sound from out in the hall woke me up. I lay back down on my side and closed my eyes. The mild traffic noises from outside was all that I heard. Then the bed shook a bit, and I heard a little crack of the metal frame, accompanied with this freakish breathing sound. I looked up in horror, and on top of me, I saw a head peering over the edge of the top bunk, looking into the bottom bunk at me. I can see the same creepy smile on his face, and his medium to longish black hair was drooping down with gravity below the top of his head as he hung upside down. It was a horrifying sight that words really can't explain. I screamed and fell off the bed as I realized what I was looking at. He sat up in the top bunk and continued looking at me. I screamed, "What the F are you doing?" as I threw something at him. He started to laugh, this really strange, off-putting laugh. I immediately turned the light on and went through my stuff to make sure nothing was stolen, while watching him at the same time. I then heard a click of a phone camera and looked at him as he was holding his phone up to me, clearly having just taken a picture of me. He was still laughing while looking at me. Something was wrong with this man. I didn't know if he had some screws loose mentally, or if he was doing this with bad intentions. I zipped up my bag and went to the front desk and requested a different room immediately, one of the single private rooms. After explaining why and trying to get a reduced rate, he wouldn't budge, but he said he'd check on the room with the guest that I was just in. I didn't call the police because I didn't know if any laws were broken, but I sure as hell left a review of the hostel. The rest of my trip there was good. I had a good time with the girl I was seeing, but every time I returned to the hostel, I was scared I'd run into that guy. I don't like how a picture of me is on that weirdo's phone. I'm not a physical guy, but I wish in that instance, I did get physical.